Hey, all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, there's no Derby preps this weekend, but we do have a pick five sequence at Oaklawn. I think maybe we want to take a look at that does have a couple of stakes races. And certainly with Arkansas State bred races involved, there's definitely going to be some value to be had. So let's have at it. So the Oaklawn Late Pick 5 on Saturday's card, March 16th, comprises races 7 through 11. And leg one is the Purple Martin Stakes. It's ungraded at 200,000. It's the seventh race, run at 6 furlongs for 3-year-old fillies. And we've got a small field here. And we look at this race, and of course, when evaluating 3-year-olds, always we want to find those horses who are progressing or have the potential to take a move forward. And I think this is a great example of the type of race where that's a defining characteristic. The early speed, Brooklyn Dew just came off a maiden and won pretty impressively, but I never like to take them going into a stakes race. Didn't really beat a whole lot, so I think probably will represent nothing more than token speed. Esternia ran a pretty good one last time, but was awful game, and it seemed like a really a much bigger race than she had run prior, and it may be a harbinger for better things to come, but I have a feeling there's going to be a regression off of that, particularly when you consider Brooklyn Dew will be pressing pretty well. So I'm going to let Esternia go. Extreme Smoke Show is kind of interesting to me. One thing I noted in the first couple races this year, this is third off the layoff, the late fractions have been improving with each race while not compromising the early fractions. And that tells me this is a horse who probably is getting a little better. Did a lot of running, did all the heavy lifting for her stablemate last time, and understandably weakened a bit. It's a little tenuous to me to it's not quite as clear cut that this one's going to take another move, but I have the feeling that she will. And being up near the pace should be in pretty good position. And 5-1 is a square price on this one, so we're going to use. Extreme Diva is one that's definitely on the right track and is moving forward. Late fractions progressing again, and ran a good race last time, albeit off the pace. And at Oaklawn, that's not too big a deal. You can certainly win from there. And I think she'll have some pace to run to, and looks pretty logical in this spot. So Extreme Diva, probably the prime win candidate. Now, Blue Squall in the Dixie Belle last time ran a really solid race and was right there to win the race. But here was the problem. She didn't change leads, just wouldn't. And down the stretch, it just seemed like she was in pause, just couldn't make that, or was reluctant to make that transition to the right lead, and I think it cost her the race. This is a horse, again, who is improving, but that is a sign of immaturity. And while I think the talent is there, and if they can work out that problem, we'll be right there with Extreme Diva, and these two should be dueling again just like in the Dixie Belle. So Blue Squall, I think, is one we certainly could consider, but Extreme Diva would be the number one choice. Leg 2 is a starter allowance for non-winners of 2 lifetime, and it's the 8th race, run at 6 furlongs for 3-year-old and 4-year-old fillies, Arkansas State breds. And as we know, with these Arkansas breds, these are wide open affairs, and it's a field of 11, so there's a lot of ways to go here. It's a pretty good betting race. Hall and Ice is pretty logical of the early runners. Trained by Lindsey Schultz, had a pretty good maiden win. Didn't really beat a whole lot, though, but did show some talent, and it's logical to expect the second start will breed an advanced effort. So I think Hall and Ice is one you have to consider. But of the front runners, I like No Coincidences more. In the debut, dueled all the way around the track to get a good second, and ran in the next race a better effort against a better field than Hauling Ice did. And I think this one offers good value at 9-2. And, it takes another step forward. Of course, that's always something you have to see with younger horses. But this one looks pretty good. And I like No Coincidences here. Doughty is one that takes a little bit of a leap of faith when you consider debuted at 4 in a claiming race, having run in a stakes race in the prior effort at 3. But came out with a career best effort with the fractions improved, and needs to take another step, I think. But at 15 to 1, I think you're getting good value. And in the 3 hole, should be able to get in good positions just off the leaders. So Dowdy, I think, offers some really good value here. Count It All Joy ran a pretty good race, I thought, in the last. Was wide all the way around the track, but was eager to get involved, and I think showed a little something. It's totally logical that she would fade late, but she probably had to run a mile and a 16th, being parked out wide for the whole trip. So would certainly, in the 9 hole, it doesn't do her any favors again. She's a little farther out than last time, but if they can work out a trip, this one does show a little bit of talent. And again, I think if they can rate her and keep her just off the leaders with a favorable position, she has a chance. Appealing Addie is one that the debut effort really didn't beat a whole lot, but was coming from off the pace, and it was a decent effort and was geared down and drew off. So you see those 2 notes. There's certainly some talent here. The 7 hole should be a pretty good place from which to hang off the leaders. And in these type of races at Oaklawn, late runners are very dangerous. They can be, particularly when you consider we've got 4 horses who are going to be at or want the lead, and then you've got 5 right behind them pressing the pace. So Appealing Addie, to me, I think is one to consider. Stenick I could kind of go either way with. I beat No Coincidences in the debut, but the follow-up wasn't really the greatest effort, I didn't think. So at 8 to 1, you are getting some decent value. So if you want to spread really deep, Stenick is maybe one to think about. But of the runners here, I think No Coincidences looks pretty good to me. And then, for some good value, I think Dowdy and then Appealing Addie would be the 3. But this is certainly a race where you have to spread. Leg 3 is the Whitmore Stakes. It's a grade 3, the 9th race on the Saturday card. Run at 6 furlongs for 4-year-olds and up. And this is an interesting field. You'll note there's no early pace in this race. And certainly Rivet or Ninja Warrior or even Jackson Traveler could be counted as one that may go to the lead. I'm going to guess Jackson Traveler probably will try it. It would be his best chance to win it, but I don't think he's going to factor. Of the horses we settled on, Rivet in particular, you just have to love him at Oaklawn. He loves running there and had a lot of lick last year, had a very solid campaign. What I like about him is that he has shown the ability to rate as well as go on the lead. And I think if he can just sit off whoever decides to get on the lead, he's going to have a tactical advantage over the late running Tejano Twist. And I think that Rivet, to me, makes a lot of sense as the primary win candidate and be my pick to win it. Ninja Warrior is a horse who's shown some talent. The last race was a starter allowance. That's true, but that was a good starter allowance field. It was pretty deep, and he ran a monster. He was game from start to finish in his second start of the year, and ran a big effort. Third off the layoff for Robertino Diodoro, and you get Christian Torres in the irons. It's conceivable if he can run another race comparable to that, and maybe Rivet isn't quite at his best, that at 5 to 1 you're getting some pretty good value. There is also the potential that he may have just run a monster and he's ready for a regression. That's entirely possible. But off of that effort, with the possibility that he could just be getting good at the right time, I'm going to give him a shot and throw him in here. I've always loved Surveillance as a horse. How can you not? He's just always brings it. 7 years old. He's run 2 solid efforts at the fairgrounds in a row. He's coming in third off the layoff. And as we know with Keith DeSormo, when he ships him, he means business. And again, he's going to be coming from off the pace, but he won't be quite so deep as Tejano Twist. So There is the possibility, if they decide to things get hot early, particularly with Jackson Traveler, if he runs back to that race he did at Sunland where he just was blazing along, then maybe tactically Surveillance has a shot. It's a little remote, I think, with Rivet in this race, but at 6-1, you're getting a square price. We know what Tiano Twist is going to do. He does it very well. He comes from the clouds, and if he has pace to run to, which he possibly will here, then he's definitely a horse you have to think about. But it's certainly no lock, as was seen in the last race, albeit in the mud, where Tiano Twist is winless. The front runner, Skelly, who's no slouch, got to a lead and was just gone, and nobody was going to get to him. Tiano Twist ran his race, and he got second. And that's entirely possible, particularly when you consider there isn't a confirmed front runner. So we just have to sort of guess that there's going to be a little bit of pace here. But Tiano Twist, I'm just not sure that this is a spot necessarily he's going to get an ideal situation. So to me, he's certainly one you have to consider, no doubt about it. But I like Rivet's chances a hell of a lot more tactically, given where he's going to be in the race and his great record at Oaklawn. Leg 4 is an optional claimer for 62.5, non-winners of 3 lifetime. And it's the 10th race, running a mile for 4-year-olds and up. And by the configuration, important to note, this isn't the short stretch that they used to employ at the mile race. So it's not necessarily to a big advantage to front runners. So I think we want to keep that in mind. We look at this field, there isn't a lot of early pace. Pat's Property would be the lone speed here. And I might like him a little more, but his form has been declining steadily for the last 3 races. As the class levels have gotten better, his form is really starting to tail off. Now, you can argue that maybe this isn't quite as deep a field as perhaps he's been facing in the last race in particular. And if that's the case, he should be able to get on the engine and with moderate fractions, he has a chance. But I think given the firepower of some of the other contenders in here and his recent declining form, I think it's highly unlikely that he can wire this field. However, of the pace pressers and early runners, Harlow Cap is intriguing because of Pat's Property. Pat's Property, I think, will just try to set moderate fractions. That's what he normally does, to try to have something in reserve late. And that's exactly the kind of race that Harlow Cap wants. In the last race, that's exactly what happened. He was able to just rest easy, settle, and just run a pretty one-paced race all the way around the track. Now, the fact that he's going to be up near right on Pat's Property's throat latch, more than likely, puts him in good position. And when you consider that most of the runners in this race are late runners, then it is possible that Harlow Cap tactically has a little bit of an advantage. Moreover, he did run a good race, and it looks like he's ready to take another move forward. And under Steve Asmussen, that's entirely possible. So at 4-1, I think you get a square price on Harlow Cap. And if we do have a couple, we'll talk about the more prominent ones. If they're a little off, then Harlow Cap is a suitable alternative. Rocket Can is pretty obvious. We haven't seen him since the Derby, though, and that is a little unsettling. That's quite a long time off. Last year, he demonstrated a steady progression, and he turned out to be just a cut below the better 3-year-olds. He didn't run a bad Derby at all, given the pace scenario, and he had been running solid races and been getting progressively better, but again, he just wasn't quite there. Now, it's logical to assume at 4 years old, under Bill Mott's care, that he can move forward with growth and logical progression. So Rocket Can is very obvious, particularly with his running style, being up near the leaders. The only question is, of course, is the layoff, and you do have to think that Bill Mott probably has him pointed for a stakes race later on, and this would be a tune-up. So it is entirely possible he won't be coming into this race in tip-top form, not tuned up all the way, that is Bill Mott's MO, is usually give him a race before they run in a bigger one. So it's logical to try to beat Rocket Ken, I think, and Harlow Cap is one of the reasons I like him. So we're going to use him, and Rocket Ken is the horse to beat, in my opinion, given his running style and given his back class. But there are ways to beat him, I think, and this is the kind of scenario that, particularly at 9 to 5 on the morning line, where he'll likely be short, I think we want to try to beat him. Secret Pocket is a horse I think is definitely getting better. The problem is he does come from off the pace, well off of it, and I don't think he's going to have a scenario that works for him. Now, route to sprint is a really good angle for his trainer, whose name escapes me at the moment, and I think he can handle a mile. His pedigree doesn't really scream it. I know he's run at it several times, but that might be one of the reasons that they leave him so far back is that he's a little distance challenged. I'm not sure. I think he's probably more likely for under, but if you want to take a wild stab in the dark, Secret Pocket at 15 to 1, coming in this race in good form, I think it's entirely possible. Heroic Move, really the issue with him, and I have to admit, for those of us who play Assiniboia Downs, he ran in the Manitoba Derby last summer, and it was a bit of a surprise to see him there, and he didn't win. He finished second, and that's always going to be lingering in the back of my mind with this horse. He's coming from off the pace. The last race he won with authority. He did have a little bit of pace to run to. I'm not sure he's going to get that type of scenario here, and that's where I'm not sure he's such a solid pick at 2 to 1. We're going to use him, no doubt. He's a solid win candidate. But if Rocket Can comes back to what we expect he will, then he'll win this race because of his tactical position. If he doesn't, then I think it's Harlow Caps. But Heroic Move, certainly one you have to use. Then we'll throw in Lucky Boss because he's good at this distance and he's good at Oaklawn. He class-wise, I don't think he really measures up here, but he is a late runner. So in the event of some traffic issues or whatnot, for some of the others, he's got a puncher's chance, but I think it's more than likely he'll be underneath. At 10 to 1, honestly, it's a little bit of an underlay in this field, I think, but I think he's one certainly is likely to show up. So we're going to try to beat Rocket Ken and Heroic Move with Harlow Cap, but we'll use those two for sure, and I think those are the 3 prime win candidates. Last leg of the late pick 5 is the dreaded maiden special weight. It is the 11th race on the card, run at 6 furlongs for 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares, Arkansas breds. These are killers. These are absolute killers, and it is a complete crapshoot. You've got a 11-horse field, and there's, it's just these are really hard to disseminate most of the time. So you'll see in our ticket strategy what we intend to do. But Q's Your Mama is very logical. Ran on the lead in debut and just couldn't hold on, but did enough there to show with a second start with one race under her that likely she will run better and will probably be the speed and may have enough to get the job done. Physically, I didn't really like what I saw from her very much, just frame-wise, but she can run. And like I said, it was a move forward after the debut. I think it's entirely possible that she could factor in this race. The Devilish Gal is a first-time starter, and looks like the work tab is, whenever I see a lot of works, that's always encouraging. That means they think something of the horse early on. And I think this one, particularly in these state-bred fields, you just never know. And at 12 to 1, you'd want value. So we'll throw Devilish Gal in there. Wildwood Queen ran a pretty solid race last time in debut. And I think second start for Randy Morse should be what the doctors ordered. That's a good angle for him. So I think Wildwood Queen is one to definitely throw in there. My Julia getting blinkers, second start. Again, another one I think that should has looks very likely to move forward. The one I liked the most was Miss Momesa, especially at 15-1 in these races. She didn't, she faded in the stretch, but on debut she looked pretty professional, and made a move on the backstretch to get into second place, and changed leads well, did everything right. It just didn't quite have enough left, and that's totally understandable being in the debut. So I think Miss Momesa, of all the horses, to me, looks the one very logical to take a move forward. And then we're going to throw in Running the Streets. It was a late runner in debut, and I believe it was the same race as Q's Your Mama. Yeah, okay. Ran late. That this is these type of races are tailor made for closers, but you really never want one at the shortest price in these races. So we'll throw in Running the Streets being logical. There's a couple others in here. Sparkly I didn't like because she rode the rail the whole time and still didn't have enough left. So that tells me, second start. Maybe we get a little better, but I just didn't see enough there. Queen Mallard, maybe, at 15-1. Like I said, you could put them all in a hat and just draw numbers and have just as good a chance. These races are like that, so we're just going to try to get. We're going to spread in this race because you have to, and we're hopefully going to get some value home with Miss Momesa. So we take a look at our ticket, and what we're going to do is, because we've got two Arkansas state bred races in here that are very hard to disseminate, we're going to just plant our flag and hope for the best. In the Purple Martin, we're going to go with 1, 2, and 6, and hopefully we can get some value home with Blue Squall or the Not Extreme Diva, the other one. Who didn't look too bad, but at least they'll give us some options to keep the ball rolling. In race 8, leg 2, we're going to go 3, 4, and 7. It's a maiden race. I probably could go a little deeper, but I think this one has a little more definitive race shape. So we'll just go with 3, 4, and 7. We're going to single rivet in race 9, leg 3 in the stakes race. We're gonna single plant our flag. I think tactically he should be in the best position, and we're just gonna go against Tejano Twist at that shorter price. And again, just planting our flag and going for it. Leg 4, race 10. It's either Rocket Can to me or it's Harlow Cap. I'm gonna fade Heroic Move, just because the price will likely be too short and is a late runner in a race that doesn't have a lot of pace. So if Rocket Can, who is logical, being up near the lead, is a little short for this race, I think it's Harlow Caps to lose, and hopefully we'll get a decent price. So then the final leg 5, we're going to spread all the way. We're going to go 2, 3, 6, 7, 9, and 12. That's 6 deep. So if we're still alive at this point, we've got 6 bites at the apple and a really good chance to take it down. And I have a feeling that we'll get some value in the last race. So that's a $54 ticket on a 50-cent base. Why knock ourselves out trying to cover all the bases? We're just going to go for it, and hopefully we'll come out on top. Those Arkansas State breds do not make life easy. That is one hell of a handicapping challenge they offer, and hopefully we're equal to it. I hope our analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy, and I wish you the best of luck as always. And of course, if you do like content like this, please like and subscribe. And thanks to all of you who have recently signed aboard. Good to have you, and looking forward to having you through the rest of the thoroughbred season and beyond. That's it from here. We'll have some more Derby prep coverage next week. Got a big weekend coming up. I hope you're looking forward to it. I know I am. It is wide open, so it should be pretty exciting for sure. I'll talk to you soon, and until then, be well.